Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and another edition of Danny and Tim's Music Scene. And even though at this time of the year, ordinarily we'd be getting ready for big outdoor shows or going to some clubs at night and enjoying the weather and stepping outside and hearing the sounds of the bands from inside, we can't have any of that. We have to consume our music in completely different ways. There's always something to talk about with Tim Finn, and part of the stuff that we've been doing is talking about all the rock documentaries and music documentaries we've been watching it, and Tim has a great suggestion for you in that regard. Also talk about some of the lists we've all been putting together during this time of COVID-19, and he put one out on Facebook the other day about great bass players. We'll talk a little bit about that, and also a blog I did last week that you can access at DannyClinkscale.com on the blog page about guilty pleasure songs and bands and things like that. That was kind of fun for me to do, and maybe you'd like to check that one out. That was a lot of fun. It has some links to the more obscure. It has some links to all the songs I picked, but maybe you'd like to check out an obscure song or two that maybe you haven't heard or haven't heard in a while. And there's all kinds of other things to talk about, including the sort of controversies of deciding to try and open like Knucklehead's local venue is and how that's being accepted. All kinds of things always to talk about regarding the music scene, and it's always a pleasure to do it with Tim Finn. Can't wait to get in touch with him face-to-face again. Maybe that'll be happening the next time around. We've been on the phone for a while now. Never as good to not see the face of that person you're engaging with, particularly when you're talking about something as personal as music. But it's still great. It's still great, and it will be great just ahead with Danny and Tim's Music Scene for this particular outing. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. We're visiting with Larry Marshall, former Chiefs defensive back and punt returner and now a Chiefs ambassador. Larry is a former pro football player with the aches and pains that come with that, and moving on in age as we all are. What do the Canaway CBD products do for you?
It's been a great relief for me. Being a punt and kickoff returner, collisions were a mainstay of my career, and these Canaway products, the salve especially, has really helped me try to get through every day with the aches and pains that I've had over a career of 7+ years in the NFL.
I get similar benefits as well, particularly with my back. Certainly wasn't a football player. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information about the great products themselves?
Well, I'm so enthused about it, Dan. They just contacted me at larrymarshall.canaway.com, and I can give them all the information they need to help them get through the day as well.
Start gaining all the benefits that Larry and I do from the trusted and reliable line of Canaway products. As Larry said, visit larrymarshall.canaway.com and get information on all the great products from Canaway.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Tim, it's amazing. Music is an amazing thing because we've gone through such a long period now where it's very difficult for artists to get new material out, or if they do, it's in a kind of different form, and we can't go to clubs, and the enthusiasm for that is waned, and people try to do things. I think the Chainsmokers are doing a drive-in show coming up, so we consume our music in different ways, and I know that one of the things I've done a lot of during this pandemic is watch music documentaries, and you stumbled upon one that is a little off the beaten path, and it sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so I found it on this streaming service called Canopy. That's Canopy with a K, and you can get it through, if you have a library card, you can get it through your public library, and you get so many free streams per month. It's usually like 10, I think, which is enough. And I was scrolling through there and I saw this documentary called Rude Boy, the story of Trojan Records. And within about 90 plus minutes, it chronicles how British youth in the 70s really fell in love with the music of Jamaica and reggae and ska, and how that music flourished over there and how it influenced subsequently British music. And as we were talking before, bands like The Clash were heavily influenced by that music, and the Police, and then you had Fine Young Cannibals, and so the Specials were a great ska band that came out of Britain, and the whole two-tone movement. And so this has some really great archival footage, and they talk to the giants of Jamaican music like Toots Hibbert of Toots and the Maytals, and Bunny Lee and Lee Scratch Perry, and they recreate some scenes as well. But they also just play some amazing music, which is probably the highlight of the whole movie. But yeah, and they also reminded me that we got some of that music over here too. Specifically, that song "The Israelites" by Desmond Decker. That was a big hit over here back in the 70s. So yeah, it just sort of reminded me of how influential that music was, and it put it all into context of how it made its way. And it was through this label called Trojan Records, was most instrumental, and they would put out these compilations, and they would sell out in Britain almost immediately. So a lot to learn and a lot of great music to hear.
Yeah, what's interesting in my world is that the music that reggae influenced, I like far better than reggae itself. I like some reggae music, but it's almost like, I think you've described, if you watch Ordinary Blues or something, it's old a little fast. That's kind of the way I feel about reggae. But Fine Young Cannibals and the English Beat, I love those bands. I love those bands.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the other thing, I know what you're saying about. There's some reggae bands where after 3 or 4 songs, it starts to get pretty redundant. But when the music they're playing throughout this documentary, it's so raw and it's so organic and it's so taproot that it doesn't have that effect. So yeah, I think when you get back to its origins, it's a little less like that. It's a little less redundant.
No question about that, and certainly the bass line in reggae music is very important. And we post things and make lists and do things the other day, and I was scrolling down your Facebook page, and you do so many. By the way, you're such a great follow on Facebook, very prolific. I can highly acclaim that. But you put out a list of favorite bass players, and it's always fun to get reactions to things like that. And Paul McCartney headed the list, but I don't know if you had it in any particular order. How did you decide to do that?
Well, there's been a lot of that going around. People are just like, I don't know who started it or when it started, but it started with guitar players, and people were just posting a picture of a guitar player. A lot of times I didn't recognize who it was, which is kind of annoying, but it was just like name 10 guitar players who influenced you in your taste in music. And so I didn't do the picture thing. I just made a list and said, here's 10 of my favorite guitar players. And then they started doing bass players. So that's when I jumped in on that. And yeah, my list was random. If I were going to top it, and then kind of order, I think James Jamerson probably would be number one, who, if you don't know, was one of the most influential bass players in music, was part of the Funk Brothers, which is the band that pretty much, a band of session musicians from Detroit who pretty much played on every Motown record and influenced generations of musicians. So he would probably be my top. But Jaco Pastorius, who was an amazing jazz bassist, I saw him with Weather Report back at Mizzou in 1977, and he was just amazing live performer, probably 6'5" and weighed about 140. It seemed like he was really very spidery, had the longest fingers I'd ever seen. So he was amazing. And boy, he wasted his life away. It was so tragic. I think when he died, he was homeless, and he was beaten to death by a bouncer because he went into a bar and started a ruckus, which wasn't the first time he'd done that, and just like the saddest possible ending. But he just became so erratic, his behavior did. He was obviously mentally ill. He couldn't get gigs anymore because he couldn't be relied on. So, but when he was on stage, he was one of the most charismatic performers I'd ever seen.
It's very unusual when bass players do that. I mean, the stereotype of bass players is pretty darn accurate, that they just stand there, look cool, and play the bass. Maybe one of the sort of iconic figures in that regard was John Entwistle, who's a big, huge man known to be able to consume ridiculous amounts of drugs and still play. And some of the bass lines he does on some of the more famous Who songs are really some of the most iconic things in all of rock music, I think.
Well, yeah, because his role in the Who was different from most bass players. Like a lot of times it was like he was the lead guitarist, but he was playing bass, and Townsend would just play these rhythmic runs and so would play leads over it. So yeah, he was really melodic and very unique. That's why he was on my list. There aren't many. I mean, McCartney, you could argue, and he's just kind of an amazing all-around musician. But he would do that. If you listen to some of his bass lines and his solo work in the Beatles, they're like these beautiful, runs and leads.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite, most underrated rock songs I think of all time is "The Real Me" off Quadrophenia, and that has an unbelievable bass line in it. And, I'm one of these people who, I am somewhat, I think people would realize that sometimes I'm a bit of a contrarian, and I always argue that Quadrophenia is easily a better album than Tommy. So, yeah,
you can make that case. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of splitting hairs between two great records.
Right.
I don't know if I'd say easily, but you can make that case.
Thank you for being understated about that. I appreciate that. Last week, regarding lists, I wrote a blog that I had a lot of fun with. I hope some people had fun with it, as much fun as I had doing it, which was a list of guilty pleasure tunes. I could write 100 of them, but I did pick 10 and put little links in there for them. Do you have either some songs or is there a band or two that you really, really like, but you just probably don't even want to tell anybody about it?
I sort of gave up that term because my motto now is you don't need to apologize for music you like.
Right.
A good song is a good song no matter who sings it. Like there's the band Bread. David Gates was an amazing songwriter.
Yes, I came very close to including 2 or 3 songs on the list, including his greatest hit. Their greatest hits album has all the soft teenage girl songs on one side, and then it has their quote unquote rockers on the other side, like Mother Freedom and Down on My Knees. They're not really rock, but they're more rock. So I totally am with you there. He's a great songwriter. I guess my biggest example is I'm never going to try to convince it, but I one of my favorite bands definitely is 38 Special. I've driven a long way to see them a couple times, and they made they made so many familiar songs that one of the times they have to do a medley in the middle of their act to fit all their hits in. You don't realize how many they had.
I saw them at Starlight once and was reminded how many good songs they wrote. They wrote really crafty melodic tunes. They're sort of branded as Southern rock band, but they're really not. I like several of their songs.
That was part of, I guess, what I said is that they were tough to put in a box because they were considered country rock, but real country people who liked real country rock wouldn't like them because they were too pop, and they really weren't that pop either. So anyway, that was my guilty pleasure was doing that guilty pleasure. Speaking of things that maybe are not as are a little more contentious now in this world that we live in, and that'll lead us into where we probably have to go every week, is the Star did a big article that they put on whatever you call it, the front page. It was online on the front page, and then the virtual edition of the actual paper, which is I get the paper forever until just a few months ago, actually. But the e-edition had a long story about knuckleheads and how some people are not liking what they're doing and other people are happy that what they're doing. It was a very interesting piece. Did you get to see that?
I've not read it yet. Yes, I just discovered it, recently. So, yeah, I mean, there's been some backlash online on social media about them doing it. I don't know. I mean, the impression I seem to get is that they're enforcing, the CDC standards, maybe not perfectly, but people I know who've been there said they felt safe. And then I know somebody said he walked up, looked in, and said, "Nope, I'm not going in there." So, what was the gist of the story?
Well, it was a very balanced story, and just said that some people will say your place is a cesspool for disease, and other people are just happy to get out. And then there are people who are, completely oblivious, obviously, who don't care at all, and say, "Well, I'm not afraid of the virus." The photograph that accompanied it was shot from above, and it looked like a pretty darn good example of social distancing, but it was the outside stage. I don't know if I would go inside yet in a music venue either, but it certainly looked like going to any performance at the outdoor area would not make you feel feel scared or endangered.
Right. Well, it's safer outdoors too. So, for starters, I would imagine he would probably try to do most of his shows outside if the weather's fine. Because I wouldn't want to be in certainly not the Gospel Lounge or I know the garage is pretty big. You could probably separate people pretty well in there if you limit it to would it be 75 people, because it holds 500, I think. So I'm just not interested right now. It's it would have to be I don't know, some band I really, really wanted to see. And then even then I would have to think twice about it.
Yeah. We're closing in on 2 months now on the Mavericks rescheduled show that I have tickets to. I'm not very optimistic about that. I don't think they've really officially canceled anything yet. They still list their dates on their website. But they have, and Raul Malo and the Mavericks have done an interesting series of. They put out a song every few days or so that are called Quarantunes. So that's been fun, and that's kind of the way that people are doing it. But I think that we just saw the Philadelphia affiliate. Philadelphia announced that they're not going to have any baseball. No fans of baseball. They've ruled it out for the entire season.
Right.
And I think that that's really what we're looking at, unless maybe the latest initiatives in making people wear masks, we'll see some progress, but we're just not getting any progress. And the thought that summertime was going to be some kind of panacea, that just turned into be a complete farce.
I just heard this morning that the southern United States has a quarter of all cases in the world. So it's on fire down there, and it's spreading. Like cases are up in every state, pretty much, except 2 or 3. Yes, this was supposed to be the safer time, the downtime when it would subside, and now I don't know what's going to happen with the schools. That's really scary. We have a high schooler, and his mother is not too keen on him going back right now, at least. It stays the way it is right now. But I know, parents with young kids, they have that's a huge problem, because parents got to go back to work. And, but if we behaved from the start, we wouldn't be in this situation. So it's really just beyond the time where people just have to buckle down and do it. Stay home as much as you can, or wear a mask.
Yeah. That's true. No question about that.
But yeah, as far as live music goes, I don't know. Nobody I know in the business is optimistic about anything happening before next year.
That's a shame, and we'll see. Hey, what I'm hoping is that this just doesn't have, entirely change our lives for a long, long time. Well, let's not go down that road right now, but let's go down a couple other roads when we return. It's Danny and Tim's Music Scene, part of Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, right here on the Reasonably Irreverent Podcast.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent Podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the CEO and president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you had a great year in 2019, a record year. 2020 comes, things are moving smoothly along, and then the coronavirus comes. But your company seemed to be very ready, very proactive, and very ready to serve your customers well.
Yeah, we adopted social distancing very early before the cities even put out the notices. And we started working from home. We are largely cloud-based as a company, so that transition was easy. Our technicians are wearing masks and gloves, and salespeople are not meeting with homeowners. We're doing everything digitally and doing everything we can to do our part to get over this as quickly as possible.
So for any needs that people have right now, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can always call us, 913-257-5426. But the best way is to go to eastonroofing.com, put your information in, and we'll give you a call.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. Let's spend a minute with Dr. Brad Woodle, who along with his wife, Dr. Christina Woodle, the owners of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture, my home for chiropractic care. And first of all, just tell us about the wide range of services you offer.
Danny, we offer comprehensive chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapy, and rehab. We do a very thorough examination, x-rays on site as necessary, and we have a full rehabilitation department, so we can help out with exercises, stretches, different therapies for the complex, but also the very simple conditions we treat.
You have been deemed essential and have remained open all through this COVID-19 process. What are some of the things you've done to make sure that was the case?
From the very beginning, in March, we started to make sure that we were cleaning and sanitizing with EPA-registered sanitizing products. We also implemented masks way before the state required them. We implemented a parking lot waiting room, took out half of the chairs in our waiting room, and made sure to space out visits so we could appropriately meet, discuss, and also screen patients to make sure we were taking care of healthy people.
Find out more about Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture and how they can help you at asfca.com. I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. And welcome back, Danny and Tim, talking some music, and glad to have you along as usual. And let's start it off with another kind of blast from the past type of thing. I was just kicking around looking for some music news the other day, and I noticed that Semisonic is putting out their first bit of original material in an EP, and first time in 20 years. Very interesting band. Of course, they are a one-hit wonder band. Closing Time is their only charted hit. Now, their singer-songwriter Dan Wilson has written huge hits for other people like the Dixie Chicks and Adele and things like that. I have the album or the CD that Closing Time is on, and it's really good. I mean, it like tune to tune to tune. It's not. It seems to me a band that didn't deserve eventually to have a designation as a one-hit wonder band. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's a sensational songwriter, and yeah, I think they don't. I don't think they're recognized for being as elite as they are. I think they got maybe branded for that one super poppy, top 40 song. But yeah, I think that band is a little forgotten or underrated. And their previous band, Shakespeare, I used to see them. I have one of their records. It preceded Semisonic, but that's some really innovative music too. So yeah, they're that's a good band, and it'll be interesting to see what the new stuff sounds like. I hope it's not too different from what they've been doing, because that's really memorable stuff.
Absolutely, and I did see that one song or one video. And it's in that particular vein, which is they kind of have a unique blend of, the songs are melodic, and then there's this rumbling power trio guitar that comes in that sort of makes it a different. Which is why the name Semisonic is so perfect for the band, really.
Yeah, it's kind of like that band Fastball. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
Just really sort of it's really crafty elite pop music, and they had that The Way was their big hit, Fastball. So they're kind of identified by that one song and that sound, but their sound is a lot more diverse than just that. But I kind of consider them the same way I do Semisonic.
Right. Let's and a quick reminder that we are coming up on something we talked about last time, and the first one will be Before We Speak Again. So it's a good place to wrap things up. And that is that outdoor. If we crave some music, the way to do it right now is these drive-in type of settings where you can stay in your car if that makes you feel extra safe, or get in some lawn chairs and town centers doing one with 3. Local bands that could, that were constantly working and drawing great crowds, and they'll get a chance to stretch their wings again. Yeah,
it's the Sunset Drive-In concert, and it's at Town Center Plaza parking lot. They're going to set it up like a drive-in theater. The second one, the Zeros at the first one, I believe.
Yep.
I don't have it in front of me. Yeah, and then Summer Breeze, the yacht rock tribute band, is number 2. And they start 3 Thursdays in a row. Start at 7 o'clock. You can either listen via radio in your car, or set up a lawn chair next to your car and listen to it the normal way. And depending on how safe you feel or don't feel. And then there's going to be food available that's going to be ordered and delivered safely. So it sounds like a really good time. And I'm going to try to get out there to see Summer Breeze.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, you've talked about them so highly so many times, and if you got great musicians playing songs that some people like and some people don't, and some people, but great musicianship and good pop songs that are well presented, that's a good mix.
Right, and it's a really good band. I don't know. I can't imagine too many people sitting in their car, because they are a dance band too. I mean, I've seen them 3 or 4 times, and every time the place people are dancing, pretty much the whole show, unless it's something really slow, unless it's a Bread song, But otherwise, yeah, it's a pretty kinetic show. Yeah,
I'll have to go see him now, and I'll have to go see him when my wife recovers from her broken ankle, because we like to get out there and dance a little bit at our advanced ages as well. So
keep it up, yeah.
Yeah. Tim, always a pleasure. Look forward to talking to you again in a couple of weeks, and we'll see where we are then. That's all we can do is cross our fingers and hope that progress is made in dribs and drabs, right?
Sounds good, Danny.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.